In 1963, my parents decided that to come to England was the best training you'd get as a nurse. I knew no one apart from I had a brother in London, took the exam and then passed it and started my training.
Providing good care is the motivation. My mum was part of the story. She worked here before I came in 1999.
We had to go into physical training school, and that was for 6 weeks. I went into the nurses' hostel. I did have a connection with a friend of mine. She was Jamaican Chinese.
I remember saying, how am I ever going to learn this job? Eventually, things fall into place, and when I'm talking to new starters now, I can have the same conversation with them when they're feeling overwhelmed. People work closely together, you rely on the rest of your team. It's not just one person or one team trying to do a job in isolation.
You had to be very respectful to the sisters and the staff nurses that were above you. You were more like handmaiden to the doctors. They told you what to do, you did it. They were like gods.
Working in an agile way now, it's less hierarchical as an organisation. We've got social media now. I think it's easier to communicate than it was in the past. COVID really brought us together in terms of making sure that we did touch base with people, but it's still difficult to reach out to everybody.
The nurses' accommodation was fantastic. Everyone was very helpful because they knew I'd only just arrived in England. In those days we had matrons. We had a sister in charge of the hostel, and you had to be in by 9. I never obeyed that rule because I used to sneak in at 10 and left a window open because I was on the ground floor. But one day she caught me and she said, "What do you think you're doing? What would your parents say if they knew you came in at that time?" So I had to apologise, and it was all forgotten the next day. She didn't report me to the matron, which she could have done.
I think we're far less autocratic. Everyone does have the ability to bring their whole selves to work. We're very diverse, so we've got people from all walks of lives, all ages, people that have left, retired and returned and come back. I was impressed by the helicopter. When it's landing, somebody's having a really bad day, but it's actually so impressive to watch it.
We had to wear a starch cap, a starched apron. We had to wear brown shoes and brown stockings. If your hair touched your collar, you were sent back to your room. It was very, very disciplined.
People who sit at the desk, so meeting and greeting people who come into their outpatient appointment wear a blue blouse, but it's not mandatory. We've had a few dress down days recently, and that brings a much more relaxed feeling.
The doctors gave the treatment, and you just followed what they did. It was very busy, so you didn't have as much time to be with the patient.
We're seeing a shift to a more informal way of working. There's more of an understanding of the pressures that we're all under and the importance of family and wanting more flexibility with working hours.
I've been to the canteen. I think the food was good.
I remember the soup was amazing. There are lots of options, international options, vegan options, vegetarian options.
When the computers came in, I was terrible because I didn't know anything about computers. I'm used to pen and paper. But, I adapted, and it's completely different, for the better, I think.
When I came to UHS and I actually had a computer, it was amazing. Now, obviously, we rely so much on technology, the way we manage the patient pathways. We use e-referral. I learnt to type on an old typewriter. Thanks to our IT colleagues who did years of work in weeks at the beginning of the pandemic. We were able to manage our patient appointments much more easily.
I think I was the only black nurse. They wanted to know where I came from, why did I leave so young? But people were so respectful. I didn't have any hostility or any racial prejudice against me. I came after the Windrush. They were very hard working, and it took them some time to get promotion. When I came in '63, there was a lot of Chinese nurses and African nurses, and they did well.
Suburban Southampton was quite a different experience for my mum. I didn't really have that mixed race peer group that I think I would have had. We really were in the minority. There weren't any other black families in the road that we live, in contrast to other areas like London, Brixton and Birmingham, where lots of families from the Windrush came to.
I started as a student nurse, a staff nurse, and then I became a sister. There was a new role where nurses could train to be nurse practitioners. So I seized that opportunity. I did what the doctors were doing. I saw patients with minor injuries, lacerations, fractures. I could refer them to orthopedics or to specialists. The nurses have done so well. Nurses run the department. I always looked forward to coming to work. I love dealing with patients. I enjoyed my job. I think the National Health is a great organisation to work for. You're well supported and we're a team. It's an amazing opportunity for anybody to work at a hospital like this.
It's a really great way of kick-starting a career in the NHS, and the world's your oyster. There are so many jobs, so many roles. You can pick from about 300 different kinds of jobs, directly or indirectly related to patient care.
I managed to clock up 57 years before I left. They said I was the longest serving nurse. I did my training in the surgical wards, the medical wards, but once I got to A&E, that was my role. I loved it.
There's a pride in what you do. You never know what you're coming into, so there's always an element of surprise. Every day's different, so it's never boring. And I do still think it's a job for life. Certainly for young people, a really good stepping stone when they get really good education, really good training, and the opportunity to develop if they want to.